Good evening. I said good evening. I did not say bad evening. I'm trying to make a joke, huh? So we will read from the text. The last verse of chapter 4 says, however, owing to people's impertinence, should you find it hard to rule righteously, it is worthwhile to become a monk for the sake of dharma and for fame too. So that means this teaching is given to the king. So there are a lot of things to do for a king. Then he says, in case due to people's impertinence, if you find it very hard to rule people, then it's better you become a monk. That means people who are monks and nuns, they think I wish I am married. I can go around with my wife, with my husband, with my children, and wear colorful clothes. And then the married people, they think I should become a monk or a nun. How simple is the life, how convenient is the life, you see. So therefore, sometimes people, when they are fed up with their life, then they become a monk or nun. Then after some time they go back again, things like that. So this is all dependent upon how much conviction you have with your dharma study and knowledge of the reality. So here, therefore, he says that if you think that the king's responsibility is too much and it's too much to deal with people, then become a monk. Then in the chapter 5 he is saying that the title of this chapter is called Deeds of Bodhisattvas, which basically means that whether you're an ordained bodhisattva or a lay bodhisattva, these are things that you should do. Lay householder should also practice all this. Especially this should be practiced by the monks and nuns more rigorously, because the very purpose of becoming a monk and nun is to be able to concentrate on spiritual practices. Right? It's like going to a school. When you go to school, wear the uniform, that means you should study. So it's a similar idea. So therefore the first verse says, thence as an ordained member, firstly develop respect for the trainings, exert rigorously in individual liberation vows, read extensively and comprehend their meaning well. So that means the very purpose of becoming a monk is to achieve liberation from samsara. Now in order to develop this wish to achieve liberation from samsara, you should really have seen the limitations of samsara. The samsara here primarily means this psychophysical existence that we have right now, which is contaminated by negative actions and negative emotions. That is samsara. Samsara is not a different place where you go. It primarily refers to this very psychophysical aggregate, which is conditioned by polluted actions and negative emotions. So that is to say, so long as you are subject under the dictates of the negative emotions, you are not going to get that long-lasting happiness and peace. Is it clear? So that we have to develop very clear understanding. In Buddhism, the very reason that you should aspire to get liberated or get nirvana or enlightenment is the kind of happiness or peace that we are enjoying is like enjoying or tasting the honey on a sharp knife, sharp blade. When you lick that honey on the sharp knife, it might also cut your tongue. So what we are enjoying, the things that we have, they'll not give us long-lasting peace and happiness. So therefore, if you don't want long-lasting happiness and peace, then it is of course your choice. But if you want that, then you need to see the defects of the ordinary contaminated life and try to go beyond that. And it is possible. And it is possible by changing and transforming your mind. You will be able to achieve that reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. So as I said yesterday, that it is basically saying that it is in your hand to be happier, to be more peaceful. But it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. So this is almost like a challenge. It's almost like a challenge. In other words, it's saying that much of the sufferings and problems that you're getting now as an individual, as a member of society, is your own doing. I mean, really, this makes perfect sense. The pollutions that we experience, especially in bigger cities, the environmental degradation that we are experiencing, the varied forms of illnesses and sicknesses that we see. I mean, these are all primarily our own doing. Be it bird flu, be it mad cow disease, be it swine flu, be it chikungunya, now the latest one in India. It's basically our own doing. Because all the countless ills, including physical illnesses or mental illnesses that we see, starts from negative way of thinking. And from negative way of thinking comes negative action, negative speech. So that disturbs the whole harmony of existence in many forms. So therefore, whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, you have to be your own master. So unless each of us take the responsibility, we will never be able to get that long-lasting happiness and peace. So therefore, exert rigorously in individual liberation vows. Exert rigorously. That means if you want to achieve that liberation, you should work hard. It is not that you make a short-lived attempt for a few days and then nothing. You do few practices while you are in Dharamsala, then after that nothing. That will not help. Just as for our physical health, we need to eat continuously, at least 4 or 5 times in a day. So similarly, we need to feed the mind with the positive thoughts continuously, rigorously, strengthen the mind. So therefore, you should exert rigorously in individual liberation vows. This liberation is called individual liberation because here we are not talking about bodhicitta or altruistic wish to achieve enlightenment. We are talking about oneself getting liberated from the influences of negative emotion. So that's why it's called individual liberation. So this sounds like a capitalistic society, individualism. Read extensively. Read the 3 Pitakas. Sutta Pitaka, Abhidharma Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka. Read all the teachings of the Buddha and the commentaries. Read extensively because it is in these texts you will find the real wisdom. The real wisdom is there. You need to read them because, as I said, we are suffering because of our own doing. And we end up doing destructive things because of, not because we like it, but because of ignorance. So in order to remove ignorance, you need wisdom. And wisdom is found in these teachings of the Buddha, the three Pitakas, the three sets of discourses. So read them. Read extensively. Read extensively doesn't mean only reading, but it also means read and digest. That's why in the Buddhist process of practice, we talk about three things: hearing, thinking, meditation. So reading is more or less like hearing. That's good to me. As a start, it's good. But most of us read and then just do nothing. Even more important than reading is thinking by oneself. You go to class, listen to the teacher, or listen to His Holiness teaching, whatever. Then after that, you should yourself sit down and think and see whether what you have learned makes sense. Whether you know the meaning clearly, you have to think. And once you are very sure and very clear about the teaching through thinking, if there is some kind of confirmation, then you need to make the contents of this teaching as part of your habit, your life. That's called meditation. Meditation means forming a habit. Forming a habit. Somebody who is thirsty, it's important to hear where water is available. But that will not quench the thirst. You need to actually go and find that water. And even seeing the water is not enough. You need to actually drink. So hearing is like hearing about where water is available. Thinking is like going to the place where water is available. Meditation is actually drinking the water. So unless you actually drink the water, simply talking about, like in one book it is said that it is better to eat an apple than read a whole book about apple. For your health, it is better to eat an apple than read a whole book about apple, how delicious it is, how nutritious it is. Unless you eat, you won't get the benefit of that apple. Okay? So therefore, one has to digest it and then make it part of one's life and comprehend their meanings well. That means the meaning is not easy to understand. You should really, because we are talking about subtle realities like impermanence, bodhicitta or shunyata. You need to understand this clearly, because for many people, we are not talking about ordinary day-to-day words. We are talking about those emotions, those values which ordinary people hardly talk about. So therefore it will take time to understand them. So therefore comprehend their meanings well. Okay? So this is a summary of what he's going to teach. So he's basically saying that when you give up your kingdom and get ordained, then the first thing that you should practice is the practice of morality. And so therefore you should show respect to the training, means show respect to the precepts of morality, like the individual liberation, and then extensively hearing the three Pitakas, and then establishing their meaning. That means you should focus on the meaning, and you should completely know what is to be adopted. Okay. Second verse, thereupon remaining aware of the minor faults, eliminate the basis of faulty actions. With effort, identify the precepts that are widely known as the 57. Thereupon remaining aware of the minor faults. Even if it is a minor fault, don't think it will not harm you. Even if you take small poison, it will kill you. So similarly, even if it is a minor fault, don't ignore it. Make sure that you don't commit such minor faults. That, in other words, you should know the details of what is to be discarded and what is to be adopted. So here in this case, he speaks about the 57, which deals with the different negative emotions which must be known. with effort identify the precepts. So again he is using the word with effort. If you don't make an effort, you will not understand them. So that means you should know the faults, and those that must be eliminated, you must eliminate them. And especially here he speaks about 57 mental factors that must be eliminated, and you must definitely know them, and then more importantly eliminate them. Then he starts giving a more detailed explanation of each of these 57 mental factors, of 57 emotions that must be eliminated. So first he talks about the faults that must be eliminated. He gives first an extensive explanation, in which case first he talks about how to eliminate the first 15 emotions, which starts from anger, or some translators say indignation. So verse number 3, anger is an agitation of mind. There's out of the 57, this is number 1. Number 1 is anger. Anger is agitation of the mind. Look at this. Anger is agitation of mind. There is nobody who, when gets angry, feels calmness. Of course, you get completely disturbed, agitated when you get angry. Your speech may not be coherent. Physically, you might start shivering. Your eyes become red short. Wrinkles might appear on your forehead. So there, you can clearly see the turbulence, you see. You can clearly see the turbulence. Okay? Anger is an agitation of mind. So it is up to you whether you want to experience that turbulence or not. So things like anger, we all have experience, a lot of experience. I'm sure there's nobody who never got angry. It's only a question of how many times we got angry. So on those occasions when you got angry, what kind of sin you created? What did you do? What did you say? Replay the sin. Replay the sin. Make a nice movie out of it. You are the main actor or actress, Then you will find out whether it was really good or something you would like to repeat or not, based on one's own personal experience. It's important to relate it to one's own personal experience. No amount of teaching will help you unless you relate it to your own experience and then come to a conclusion that yes, that was bad. I should not repeat it. And you don't have to repeat it. So that is called dharma practice. But if you simply read about anger and then continuously get angry, no point reading about anger. Anger makes you disturbed, agitated, turbulent. Anger shortens your life. There is a clear scientific data that anger, many of these negative emotions like anger, they consume our energy. The more you get angry or the more you develop strong negative emotions, the more they consume your positive energy and make you weak. And let me explain this to you right at the outset, the difference between negative emotions and positive emotions. The negative emotions, they don't have a solid foundation. It means they don't have reason. And normally people who have no reason, then they get angry. If I'm right, I have a lot of reasons to explain why I did this or that. I don't have to get angry, I can explain. Don't get angry, don't get angry. I'll explain this to you. I'll tell you why I did this. Don't get angry, you can say things like that. But if you have no reason, then the only thing you can do is get angry and take out your gun. You see? So anger, like these negative emotions like anger, number one, they have no foundation, no reason to support them. Number two, these negative emotions, they are narrow-minded. They don't have a wide vista. You see, when you get angry, you need a target. It's different from loving kindness. When you develop loving kindness, you have that loving kindness to everybody. It is expansive. It's open-minded. When you develop negative emotions like anger, it is suffocating. It is narrow. It needs just one target. This is the person who did this to me. I must eliminate this person. I must eliminate this person. See? Similarly, when you develop a strong desire attachment, I love this man, I love this woman. She is the only woman or the only man, things like that. You need to confine, you want to confine to just one person, you see. Amazing. And without this person, I'm going to die. That's the famous statement that we make, you see. And actually you can see how silly you are, how stupid you are. Loving kindness says love everybody. Ordinary attachment love says I can love only this person. Just one. See, you can see how narrow-minded it is. So these narrow negative emotions, they are suffocating. They destabilize you. When you develop positive emotions, it makes you strong, stable, your feet firm on the ground. Compassion, love, firmly on the ground. When you get angry, you are agitated, that means it destabilizes you. You become weak, you become vulnerable. And when you develop these negative emotions, evil spirits enter you. People will bully you. People will look down upon you. Physically, you become so weak that you will not be able to digest food. And you will not be able to sleep. So you can see clearly. These negative emotions, they have only one work, only one job. The only job is to completely destroy you. They have no other work. So therefore these negative emotions are really the sworn enemy. And the bad thing is that these negative emotions are not outside. It's not like the external enemy. If it is an external enemy, even if the enemy is horrible, but still you can run away from that enemy. Or you can fight. Or you can say, please excuse me, spare my life, I'll do whatever you do. The enemy might spare your life. It might become even your good friends. But the negative emotions, the more you submit to them, the more they will take advantage of you. Like anger, for example. Make anger as a part of your habit, get angry all the time. The more you get angry, the more your immune system will collapse. The more blood pressure will increase. The more mad, insane you will become. Okay, very clear. You become mad at the end of the day. So therefore the target of all the countless teachings that the Buddha gave is just how to destroy these negative emotions. There's no other purpose. How to destroy these negative emotions. So that should be your, whether you know too many texts or not, but that should really be your lifelong pursuit. How to reduce the intensity of these negative emotions. If you do that, then happiness has started already. Peace has already started. And if you don't do that, if you simply expect change coming from outside, it will not happen. It has never happened before. So therefore it is important to understand these basic realities, basic facts. And there is an urgency in this practice. Urgency. Because this kind of practices of eliminating negative emotions and cultivating positive emotions, only human beings can do, not other animals. Only human beings. Now among human beings also, how many are there? Not many people talk about destructive emotions. Not many people talk about developing the highest altruism to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Not many people talk about developing wisdom that discerns the reality and uproots the ignorance. Even today, when scientists and others talk about emotional intelligence and things like that, I have never seen a book which talks about removing the negative emotions from the very root. There's no technique found by people except the Buddha. Therefore, many people say Buddha is the greatest scientist the world has ever produced. Because he gave a teaching by which we can completely uproot the foundation of negative emotions. No scientist has given any teaching or idea on such important matters. So therefore, it's only human beings can make an attempt and reduce these negative emotions. Now in the case of human life, although we have this great human intelligence, even in the case of those of us who have this opportunity to make an attempt, when are you going to do this? How long are you going to live? There is a beautiful encounter of a student with his teacher, and the teacher asks the student, "Are you practicing Dharma?" He said, "Yes, sir." Then the teacher scolded him by saying, "Don't tell lie. I've seen you sleeping the whole night and getting distracted in the day. So when do you find time to practice Dharma?" It's absolutely true, you see. So life is short. There's not much time. It's very urgent. Then there is definiteness of death, indefiniteness of time of death. Death can come anytime. Therefore, to think that I have time is an illusion. You don't have time. Tomorrow or next life, which will come first? It's not sure. Just like this light which just went out without advance notice, you know. So we have so many examples of such happenings, you see. So therefore, while we have the opportunity, while we have the time, it is important to have a clear understanding of this and start the great job of weakening and reducing the intensity of these negative emotions. So that's what I want to explain right in the beginning, in the case of all the negative emotions. So anger is in agitation, the number one emotion. Anger is in mental disturbance or agitation. Second, resentment is semblance. That means resentment is something that is related to anger. When you get angry with something, then after that you continue to remember that wrongdoing of that person and hatch it in your mind, maintain it in your mind, which is worse than anger. Even if you get angry, pick a fight, then after that if you forget, it's better. But if you maintain resentment, keep it in your mind, it's very serious matter. So second is the resentment, is it semblance, means it's something related to anger. Third is concealment. Concealment is hiding one's bad qualities. One's bad qualities. There's nobody who wants to make a declaration of one's bad qualities. We all try to hide, you know. Why do we hide the wrongdoings? We hide the wrongdoings because we want to portray and show that I am a good person. It's such an interesting thing. If you really want to present yourself as a good person, then why do you do these bad things? So there is a duplicity. So therefore the Buddhist teaching says, never ever adopt this life of duplicity. Saying one thing, doing another thing, thinking one thing and doing another thing. Don't adopt life of duplicity. So concealment. That means you conceal your wrongdoings and with cunningness and deceitfulness you ensure that it is not known or seen by others. So that is called concealment. So that means whenever all of us do something wrong, and having done something wrong, then it's better to reveal it, or at least in front of a Buddha statue or somebody. Just say it, that I made this mistake, forgive me, I will not repeat it, things like that. Or at least you don't pretend what you are not. Even if you have done something, which we all do, but then having done something wrong, don't pretend that you are perfect, you are good. Okay? Concealment is hiding one's bad qualities. Spite is to urge to be spiteful. So that means having done something sinful, something negative, and then from depth of your mind, you are not giving that up. That is called spite. Spite basically means grasping towards sinful activities. Spite is to urge to be spiteful. Urge, he has used the word urge. I mean, there are different translations, We don't necessarily agree, but according to the Tibetan, it looks like saying that spite means grasping or having attachment to sinful activities, the negative activities that you do, and then you are not able to give it up, you hang on to it, you develop obsession with it, attachment with it, that is called spite. Guile, some translators use the word guile, some use the word deceit or dishonesty. So guile is deception in its extremity. That's one negative emotion. That means you are mentally cunning, that you have a habit of cheating others. That's called dishonesty or guile. Is deception in its extremity. In its extremity means totally deceiving others. The next is deceit, is mind's deception. Some translators use the word dissimulation. Dissimulation. Jealousy is the grievance against others' qualities. Jealousy belongs to attachment, and because of attachment to material offerings or respects, when other people get similar respect and material findings, you are unable to tolerate it. That's called jealousy. If your neighbor, for example, if you want to buy a Mercedes car, but you didn't have enough money, but then you find your neighbor has already bought a Mercedes car, then you feel unhappy. That's called jealousy. You are unable to tolerate others' prosperity, others' success, because you are longing for such prosperity and success. Miserliness is the fear of giving. Fear of giving. That means there are people who don't want to part anything. They fear losing anything. So they tightly hold on to something. That's called miserliness. Tight-fistedness. Tight-fistedness. The reality is that sooner or later you have to give up everything. When you die, you have to give up everything. Therefore, many of the Buddhist teachings, they say that now when you have the freedom, now when you have the choice, practice generosity, practice charity. Now if you don't do that, at the time of your death, you have to leave everything behind. Okay, at that time, even if you say, okay, I'm dying, I'm going to leave everything, that doesn't make sense because you have to leave. There's nothing else you can do. So that's not called giving. It's not called giving. So it's important to, a very simple practice of giving is all of us, I'm sure, all of us have something to give to others. There are many people who are much, much more in need than us. So you start giving. In the beginning you may not be able to give, but when you start practicing, then gradually you will pick up the habit. And I always remember the story of a famous Tibetan teacher who right in the beginning was so stingy that he was unable to practice any giving. And then he realized his stinginess. Then he said, I must change this habit and practice giving. But still he was not able to give anything to others, so he picked something in his right hand and gave it to the left hand. Then picked up something by the left hand and gave it to the right hand. And then gradually he became such a great practitioner of giving, and he became a great master. So like that, okay? And therefore many teachers, they say, I will not talk about the benefits of giving, but I will talk about the disadvantages of holding. I will not talk much about the benefit of giving, but disadvantages of holding. How much you need? How much you want to collect in your small room? You see? On the one hand we say, I don't have much money, but then we keep on buying all the junks, Then start collecting in our small room where you hardly able to move, So, it's not good for your health and life also. So practice giving. Miserliness is the fear of giving. And when you get used to giving, then gradually not only giving material things, but even if you have to give your body, there will be no problem. Okay. Shamelessness and inconsideration is to be unconcerned towards self and others. So that means having no shame means in relation to yourself. If you do certain things which is not appropriate to your stature. For example, if you're a monk, there are certain things the monks should not be doing. If you do that, then you are not considering yourself, who you are. So that means you are a shameless person. Now if you do something that is improper, which is bringing down the reputation of His Holiness Dalai Lama or Tibetan people or my parents, but if you don't care or don't consider about others, that's called lack of consideration for others. There is no proper English term for this Tibetan word, which is called telmeba. Okay? So, having no consideration for others. Arrogance is to show no humility. Arrogance is, that means you don't bow down to your teachers. You don't bow down to others because you're arrogant. An arrogant person's head is always in the air. Good morning. See, we have this English saying, pride goeth before a fall. When you're arrogant and proud, then that pride and arrogance will go when you fall. That means you will fall. Because when you go with your head in the air, you're not looking at the road, and you might trip and fall. Then your arrogance goes, you see. And many great Buddhist teachers, they say that if you're arrogant and proud, you're not giving any space for developing higher qualities. And many of these great masters, they say that you should yourself look whether the beautiful green grasses and flowers, they grow on the top of a mountain, exposed top of a mountain, or down in the valley. The beautiful grasses and flowers, they grow down in the valley, not on the exposed top of a mountain. So if you become proud and arrogant and act like an exposed top of a mountain, knowledge will not grow. But if you practice humility, then like the valley, there is possibility for you to grow the beautiful flowers of knowledge and qualities. Because when you become humble, you become receptive, you open up, you listen to others. So generally speaking, it is better to listen than talk. Because when you talk, for example, I'm talking right now, when I talk, I'll be talking what only I know. But if I listen, I'll hear many things that I don't know. So you should prefer listening more than talking. Listening is more important than talking. Because in the Buddhist teaching also, it always starts by saying, listen to the Dharma carefully. There's not much where it says, talk about the Dharma. Not so much. Then also look at our physical feature. We have only one mouth, 2 ears. That means listen more, talk less. But we don't listen, we talk, you see. So if you talk, you're continuously talking the same thing that you know, which I unfortunately do, you see. So arrogance is to show no humility, while aggression is a thought-induced aggression. This is a new mental factor which is explained in this precious Garland and not in other texts. So I don't know this, but it has been translated as aggression is a thought induced by anger. So aggression basically means it's like preparation for doing harms out of anger. For example, when you physically move, and your facial expression changes out of anger, then you are starting to harm others. That's the meaning. Aggression here means that out of anger, your facial expression changes. Your eyes become red, you develop wrinkles on your face, your hands start shaking, you see. So that's called aggression in this sense. Haughtiness is to have conceit. Haughtiness basically means, I think very similar to arrogance, but haughtiness is a mental inflation. Inflation means the inflation may be due to your wealth, maybe due to your name, maybe due to your fame. When you have fame, name and wealth, then you get inflated, just like a balloon. The more the balloon gets inflated, the more risk is to burst. So haughtiness or inflation, mental inflation is also not good. Haughtiness is to have conceit due to wealth, whatever. Non-conscientiousness is disregard for virtue. Here we have used the word non-conscientiousness. It can be heedlessness. When you don't heed, when you don't care, then because of this carelessness, you will not show any interest in positive virtuous practices. But there are many people who lead a very casual, careless life and never show interest in developing positive qualities. So that's called heedlessness. And because of that, you don't guard your mind from negative emotions. If you're careless, then you will very soon become a victim to the aggression of negative emotions. The next is pride. Pride is of 7 types, which I shall explain them here. Number 1, to falsely is presumed to be inferior to the inferiors, equal to the equals, and superior or equal to the inferiors is called egoistic pride. So that, according to, there is not much description, but according to my understanding, it looks like it's talking about the pride in general. You might become proud with reference to somebody who is superior than you. Okay, you might develop that pride with somebody who is equal to you. You see, how do you do that? For example, I think it will be explained later on. Okay, to falsely presume to be inferior to the inferiors, equal to the equals. Superior to or equal to the inferiors is called egoistic pride. That's number 1. Number 2, misconstruing oneself as superior or equal for any quality is pride of superiority. So the first one is really like saying that, okay, I belong to the inferior group, so I'm slightly inferior. I'm inferior, yes, I'm inferior to that person, but slightly. That means you still maintain that pride. Okay, I'm a little bit inferior to those who are equal to me. That means you are not very low. Okay, I'm not equal to those superior people, but I'm quite close. So the pride can come in many forms, you see. That's why we see some people who hardly have anything, but they are very proud. Due to whatever be the reason. So this second pride of superiority means that whatever qualities you have, and then because of this quality, that if you compare yourself to somebody who is superior, that I'm equal to this superior person in terms of my quality and so forth, so that is called pride of superiority. Thus one assumes oneself to be superior to even the exceedingly superb. The feeling of being higher than even the high ones is called pride over pridefulness. Consider this as serious as the sores that erupt on top of your boils, like abscess in a tumor. So this is called pride of the pride. That means I am superior than even the superior ones. The 5 aggregates known as the thoroughly acquired are all in fact empty. To apprehend them as I through sheer ignorance is called egoistic pride. So that is called pride of the self. That means the five aggregates, the five psychophysical aggregates, which are known as the thoroughly acquired. That means these five psychophysical aggregates that we have are acquired through contaminated actions and negative emotions. And these five psychophysical aggregates will also become a cause for acquiring similar contaminated psychophysical aggregates in the future. So therefore they are called thoroughly acquired ones. Now if you look at the nature of all these five psychophysical aggregates, they are all in fact empty. That means none of these psychophysical aggregates have inherent independent existence. However, if you perceive them, apprehend them as I having inherent independent existence through knowledge, through ignorance, then this is called pride of the self. Pride of the self. Because when you develop, for example, when you develop this feeling of I, okay, what are the basis on which you, with reference to which you develop this grasping of the I? You develop this grasping of the I with reference to primarily your psychophysical aggregates, out of which the main thing is your physical aggregate, because you see this body and then you develop this notion that, okay, I am here. Right? But where is this I? It is not your body. Normally when I see you, your body, then I say, okay, I saw him. But what I saw is your body, not you. So the so-called I or you is a conception that we designate to the psychophysical aggregates. So it's a mere designation. Now once you understand that this is a mere designation, then there's no point you develop so much grasping, craving and arrogance to oneself. It's a mere designation. It's a mere designation. Like I call this a book. I don't call this elephant. If I say I'm now reading from the elephant, you will all start thinking Geshe Lhakdor is now out of the mind. Because we give this designation book and we all agree, that's it. Apart from that, there is nothing called a book existing from its own side. So similarly, with the self or I is a mere designation. So not being able to understand that, if you develop grasping and craving, thinking there is an I existing from its own side, that's called ignorance. And that ignorance is the source of all the problems and difficulties. Okay? Presuming one has attained results where one has not is misconstrued pride, pride of conceit. That means you may not have obtained any special quality, but still you are under the illusion. There are many people like that, who may not have any quality, but they think they know everything. So that is called manifest pride. Manifest pride. You show it. Okay? To extol negative actions is what the learned term as false pride. So the sixth pride is called wrong pride. Wrong pride. Wrong pride in the sense that you, even if you have done something destructive, negative, instead of regretting, you might come up with the thinking that I did something great. Like some people who kill somebody, then not, instead of developing regret and sadness, they might think, I am the hero. I did it. I killed 5 people, 10 people. So that's called wrong, completely wrong arrogance or false pride, wrongful pride. To extol negative actions that one has done is what the learned term as false pride. To deride oneself, thinking what good is there in me, is pride of inferiority, pride of lowliness. These in brief are the 7 types. To deride oneself, thinking what good is there in me, means that I will not be able to do anything. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the power. So in this way you look down upon yourself. That's called pride of inferiority. So these are the 7 types of pride or arrogances. Then it starts, I think, the 5 wrong livelihoods. Pretension is to restrain the senses that crave for offerings and respect. You can use the word pretension also, it's hypocrisy. So from here these 5 are called 5 ways of wrong livelihood. First is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means to restrain your senses. And that means I may be a very bad person, but in order to earn your respect, I restrain my senses. That means I don't move up, down, but I show myself as a very restrained person, sitting calmly and quietly, not looking up and down, Then also when I walk, move very slowly, to show how holy I am, to get the respect, to get offering, to get respect, whatever. So that's called hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. In today's world there are many such hypocrites. Pretension or hypocrisy is to restrain the senses that crave for offerings and respect. You don't restrain your senses for practice, but for offerings, for respect. Second wrong livelihood is flattery, as mentioned, is to speak pleasantly for the sake of offerings and respect. That means to go to your benefactor and sponsor and say so many nice things, Oh, how nice you look today, you're so kind, and I know you've been helping many people, so gradually you will say, please help me. So you flatter, you see. And people normally do that. Whenever they want something, then they show a big smile, you see. There's a kind of smile, is kind of flattery. When you don't need other people's help, then you don't even look at that person. But when you are in need, then they smile, they bring some gifts, In many cases, it's flattery. Flattery, as mentioned, is to speak pleasantly. You speak very softly, very sweetly. How young you look, how good you look, huh? So according to the Buddhist teaching, when you speak, your words should be like honey, or it should be like a flower. It should not be like a filth. So this is a hypocritical softness of the speech. Okay? The next one is implicit begging. That is also called indirect accusation. Implicit begging is to praise others' possessions in order to obtain them. if I see a nice pen in your hand and I want to get that pen, then I say, can I see your pen? Oh, from where did you get it? It looks so nice. Then you write something, oh, it's really, the ink is so fine, so nice. You start praising the things belonging to other people. Then they might say, Geshe, please take it. That's what I wanted. That's what I want, So when somebody praises your things, be careful, huh? So implicit begging. So indirectly. Implicit means actually indirectly. Indirect begging it is called. You don't ask that person, please give this pen to me. But you simply say, how nice this is, where did you buy it, So you're indirectly trying to get it. That's also wrong livelihood. Implicit begging is to praise others' possessions in order to obtain them. Next wrong livelihood is coercive misappropriation, is to decide to deride others brazenly in order to obtain the wealth. Now here in this case, it's a coercive misappropriation. That means forcibly you take the things from others. For example, in the same case, if I see your pen, then I say, give the pen to me. Then if you say, I need this pen, oh, I know you're so miser, you're so tight-fisted, And then, to show that you're not tight-fisted and not miser, you'll give the pen, you see. So you forcibly take those things that belongs to others. And for example, especially if you're a teacher, then from your students you can get it. Oh, this is so nice, I'll keep it. There's forceful taking of, forcibly taking things that belong to others. That's wrong livelihood. The last one of the 5 is seeking things by citing earlier accusations. There are many beautiful techniques here, yeah? So this one's seeking things by citing earlier accusations. That means, the last time the jacket that you gave me was so useful, I use it throughout the winter, Now recently I don't know where I kept it. Now winter is coming, you see. So that you're saying that last time you gave me, it was so nice, so give me one more now. So you're saying that. So seeking things by citing earlier accusations is to praise what has been formerly received. Sometimes this is also interpreted by saying finding material goods through material goods. That means if I want your nice jacket, then in order to get that nice jacket, I'll give you something else, smaller, much smaller. Or in other words, I want to get anything from you. In order to get that bigger thing from you, I should give something smaller to you, you see. Maybe I take one thermos of sweet tea or make some flower offerings or things like that, with the hope that you will get more. That's what normally people do with their benefactors, they go to see them with some, thermos of tea or some eggs or whatever, to get more. So finding material goods by giving material goods. That's another way of explaining it. So these are not good. Then the number 21. Criticism is to reiterate each and every mistake of others. So this is also very improper. That means if you find the wrongdoings of others, then to victimize that person, repeatedly talking about that. I remember last time you did that, you made a big mistake. Then after a few days, again you continue. Many aristocrats in Tibet, they do things like that. I think many politicians do that. To control other people, to victimize them, whenever they see one of your mistake, they will just pick that up and repeatedly tell that. Repeatedly tell, which is totally against Buddhist teaching. According to Buddhist teaching, it says, speak good qualities of others. Find your own fault. Now here, not only you are finding faults of others, but you are highlighting it and talking about it repeatedly to victimize and bully that person. In the mind training text, it is really like, there is a teaching which says, don't ambush. Don't ambush. When you are to corner your enemy, and then you hide at a critical point, then ambush and attack the enemy. So similarly, you are ambushing. You wait for somebody's wrongdoing, mistake, and then you seize that opportunity. It's ambushing, which is very, very unhealthy. Like, for example, if somebody is blind, then you remind that person, you're blind, blindness is fault. So you continuously talk about it, this person will feel very unhappy, very sad, you see. So therefore it is very, very improper to continuously highlight the faults of others. Okay? So criticism is to reiterate each and every mistake of others. Timidity is induced by frailty due to lack of self-evolution. Timidity here basically means that when your mind is full of attachment, then you will not be able to make any effort in doing spiritual practice. As I said earlier, when you develop any of these negative emotions, you become weak. For example, if you are somebody who is obsessed with many things, have attachment with any things, then you become timid. You become weak. So timidity is induced by frailty means weakness, due to lack of self-evolution. So timidity is basically a mind where you have not properly evaluated your weaknesses and strength and let yourself control by attachment, by which you become weak and vulnerable. Obsession for undesirable things is, whether you use the word obsession or clinging, is for undesirable things, is for the indolent ones. Due to the two factors that we have already explained, and especially due to your attachment to inferior objects, which are really not worthy of developing attachment. From there, then you become indolent, which means you become lazy. You become lazy. You become weak and lazy. Discrimination is mental attitude shrouded by the darkness of desire and hatred. Discrimination here means seeing the separateness of oneself from others. It is because of this feeling of separateness that you develop attachment. Hatred and ignorance. Meaning that it is based on this biased attitude, with the thinking that this is me, this is others, this is me, therefore I must take care of myself, I must develop attachment. this is not me, this is others. So it's not my responsibility to take care of them. Instead, I should ignore them, develop hatred. So it is because of this feeling of disconnectedness, separateness between oneself and others, that you develop the three poisons: attachment, hatred and ignorance. Discrimination is mental attitude shrouded by the darkness of desire and hatred. Not subjecting anything to a mental consideration is explained as indifferent of attitude. So 25th is called having no view. Having no view means even when attachment, hatred, ignorance arises, not subjecting anything to mental consideration means when hatred, ignorance, attachment, when these things arises, you don't subject it to mental consideration. That means you don't analyze them, how destructive they are. That's the meaning of having no view. That means, it is critical to analyze them because they are destructive. But if you maintain a lukewarm attitude and maintain this insensitivity, then that is called having no view.